Welcome to another episode of Win or Die Gaming Podcast. I'm Mike Greca with Ride for Life 3, my co-host. And today we have a very special guest. We have BILLYEATWORLD.
Hey guys.
On the podcast. All the way from Australia.
Yes. Sunny Aussie. The amazing weather.
We are definitely excited. He is a popular YouTuber. Has a lot of subscribers. He is also an EA game changer, so we're going to talk to him about the Battlefield 5 release trailer and try to pick his brain and get his opinion on things and see the upcoming game, and let's get hyped for it.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing we want to focus on is the build-up for the new Battlefield release. I mean, we're all excited about it. We've had so much going for us with Battlefield 1, with all the communities and leagues and everybody who's been so involved. So being able to jump right into Battlefield 5 with both feet on the ground, ready to get into that gameplay, have a lot of fun, and just build the community right back up to where it should be.
Okay, so Billy, let's just go over the trailer. We saw that the game was going to be set in the World War II era, and that was no surprise to anyone. We saw, hints were dropped a little bit here and there prior to the release of the trailer. So what do you think about the setting, the World War II setting?
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for having me on to start with.
Yes, absolutely.
I really I'm pretty optimistic about the setting, to be honest, because what I've been hearing in the last sort of week or so is I feel like people are worried that it's just going to be almost like a big DLC for BF1. And I don't think it's going to be like that at all. I mean, I think the World War II setting, really, when you think about it, they shouldn't have really gone back to World War I in the first place. It was a really hard setting to do. And I think World War II just has a lot more content in there that they can possibly draw from. Really was kind of like that era where technology started to play a massive role on the battlefield. And so, and that's what Battlefield's all about, lots of vehicles, lots of weapon attachments, lots of cool weapons. And I don't think they're going to have the issue they had with BF1, where they're trying to find experimental content just to fill the gaps. I'm really keen for, things like tanks and aircraft and mainly just the fact that, there's going to be a big pool of weapons to draw from straight up. Like I said, they don't have to draw from experimental weapons, and I think it's got a lot of potential.
And there's a lot of weapon variants, and it's going to leave the door open for a lot more customizations too, which I know a lot of people are asking for. They want to get into that ability to be able to customize their characters as well as their weapons to each unique, personality.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, with World War II, you're going to have great, dogfights, because the planes of that era it's going to be a lot of fun. And, I know the tanks, I personally like to be in a tank, and I think the tank warfare is just going to be off the charts. So definitely looking forward to that.
And the other thing is, too, I mean, when it comes to tanks and stuff like that, the tanks actually kind of... they'll play like they have in previous games, like in Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 3. And sure, like a Tiger tank is not like an M1 Abrams, but it's the same kind of mechanics. Whereas the World War I tanks are a bit clunky, and they had the dual controls. You basically had to have someone in the gunner's seat to be effective. And I just feel like it's going to feel more like Battlefield always has, whereas Battlefield 1, especially in terms of vehicles, didn't really feel like Battlefield 4, and that was one of the things I really didn't like about the game.
Right. You had to really rely on somebody else being there with you at all times.
Yeah, that's right.
Unless you're in this, the Saint Chamond, which was just incredibly overpowered, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, this is true, but that's all depending on positioning. But yeah, I mean, the one thing I got to admit that I'm very excited for is the way they're doing the revives. When they brought out the information that you'll be able to drag your character out of the gunfire, really was like, what? Are you serious? You're taking that step? That's going to change the whole dynamic of how you approach a situation or handle it as a squad.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the other thing is, too, is going back to Battlefield 1 in the last couple of weeks, because I don't know, I'm not sure if you guys know, but I actually took a pretty big break from Battlefield 1. I just kind of got over it, and sort of coming back to it, it's made me realize that one of the things I really didn't like about it that much was the fact that when the medic revives someone, it's like that instantaneous BF3 style revive where, and the medic doesn't even like crouch down to, like, he just kind of waves his syringe in the air and suddenly the guy's up. And that just, it's so unrealistic. And I think in Battlefield 5, what they've been talking about is they're trying to make everything more like kinetic and physical. So, you know, I guess I'm kind of looking forward to, you know, the medic actually having to get down and actually interact with the player he's trying to revive. You know, that's does a lot for the realism for me.
Right. Well, I know that a lot of the competitive players, the one glitch they used to always use, and they still use it to this day in Battlefield 1, is the slide medic revive. If you slide at a certain point and you medic at the certain point during that slide, the character automatically, like, you just keep going through your animation or whatever you're doing, and he just is running a different way, like it never even occurred.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's quick revives, you don't even realize it's happening. So being able to fix that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was really interesting is that they said every class is going to have the ability to revive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I imagine the medic's still going to be better than everyone else, but still, you know, that is really interesting, and that would probably be, you know, kind of like open the door a bit more for more sort of competitive. Like, I know you guys are probably interested in this sort of stuff because, you know, when you only have, you know, 5 or 6 guys on a side, it's sort of hard to, you know what I mean? Like, make the game last longer when only the medics are the ones reviving. It kind of makes the medic pretty overpowered when it's, you know, sudden death, no revive sort of gameplay. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see how that actually goes when it comes to competitive game modes.
Yeah,
you know, one of the things. Go ahead, Rod.
I think that it's really going to play a key factor is the roles that each character plays. I mean, you have your support class, you have your medic class, and they've always tried to interpret that properly, but I think with the new Battlefield 5 coming out, I think they're really going to focus on, all right, we need this person in this, you know, in this squad for this specific reason. It's not going to just be run around, throw ammo a bunch of places. No, you actually have to go over, grab that ammo out of that ammo box, or you actually have to pick up that ammo, medic pouch. You know, they're relying on you interacting, like you said earlier, interacting with the game, and it's going to make it, it's going to have a realism type of factor that they're aiming for without taking away from the experience and fun.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, did you guys see in the trailer where when the BF-109 crashes in and knocks that guy over, and then the player character gets up and grabs the MG42, and he actually has to bend down to pick up the weapon? You know, and this is what I don't think a lot of people were getting from the trailer. I think a lot of people were looking at the trailer and thinking, you know, half of that is not going to actually be in the game. But what I was getting from what I heard behind the scenes is basically what you see in the trailer is actually gameplay features. You know, things like bending down and picking up that gun is something that is actually going to be in the game, which is, I mean, that's been in lots of other FPS franchises for years. But in Battlefield, it's always been that quick switch where suddenly you appear with the MG42 or whatever in your hand and you don't actually physically have to go through the animation of bending down. And that I feel like is going to slow people down a lot, you know, and that's one of the biggest criticisms with Battlefield in recent years is it's starting to get more arcadey. And I feel like anything that they can do to slow the player base down is going to be a huge thing for the game.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
and the fact
it's definitely gotten into a more fast-paced game recently, you know, and a little less tactical, you know, and with an addition of things like the realism of having to pick up a gun or interacting with a med crate, that's definitely going to slow things down. And, you know, you have to plan things out a little better. You can't put a med crate out in the open for someone to sit there and interact with it, or they're going to be gone. And another thing, you know, they're bringing the fortifications, which just brings a whole new dynamic to the game that we've never seen before, and I'm, you know, very interested to see how that's going to play out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the fortifications, I mean, especially is going to be good when it comes to in-placed weapons, because I don't know if you remember in previous games, but, things like field guns and MG nests and that sort of stuff, they just never get used because it's like a death sentence because you're going to get taken out by a sniper. But, what I'm getting is that you're going to be able to, build up sandbags around, emplacements or MGs, and then actually, kind of protect the gunner from sniper fire or whatever. But not just that. The support player is going to actually be able to rebuild those emplacements as well. So I think if you remember, everybody's going to have access to fortifications, but yeah, the support player is going to get a few more options. And one of those options is that he's going to be able to build emplacements that either weren't there at the start of the game or rebuild them if they get destroyed. So it's not like a case like it is in BF1 that if you're in a tank, all you have to do is just take out all the field guns and you never have to worry about them again because, the support player can come along in BF5 and build them back up, and then you have to deal with that threat again.
Right. Plus, you have the ability to build fortifications, so that that trench gun in that one location. You may learn those locations after playing the maps, but because you can build those fortifications, those trenches could be anywhere. I mean, anywhere that you're able to build a fortification, a support class can go and build a trench gun, and that's going to change, how people perceive the way they approach certain situations because they're thinking, all right, that's not a stationary weapon anymore. It's a stationary weapon in essence, but it's mobile at the same time with that support class.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like for example, you could take a point on a map and it's relatively undefended when you get there the first time, and then 10 minutes later come back and there's like machine gun nests, and
exactly.
It's kind of like Levolution from Battlefield 4, except it's not like a preset time where the building goes down or this happens or that happens. It's like it's player driven Levolution where that you can physically actually change the map around, and it's always going to be different in every game, which is really interesting.
Now, do we know if the fortifications, they could only be built in certain spots, or can you pretty much lay them down wherever you want? And I believe what, that I got from it was that it's like designated areas that you can build them.
Yeah. And I can't exactly remember exactly what the dev said about it, but that was the impression that I got as well. It's not like, I don't think, and don't quote me on this, I don't think you're going to be able to build wherever you like. It's going to be a case of, there'll be preset, positions for fortifications around, guns and stuff like that. So yeah,
they're going to have a large variety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
pretty much,
it'll be around strong points and stuff like that. So, for example, you'll be able to go, just say, for example, you blow the wall out of a building. Well, you'll be able to rebuild that part of the wall that's been destroyed, if that makes any sense. It's not like you're going to be able to just build a sandbag right in the center of the room. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to work like that, I don't think. But like I said, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But that's the impression that I got anyway from what I heard behind the scenes.
Right, like pretty much what they're trying to do is rather than having 6 key points, you're turning that into 12 key points, which takes somebody a longer time to be able to learn. All right, it could be at any one of these points. I mean, even in Battlefield 1, you can repair the AT guns and everything else with the support class and the wrench, but nobody uses that because they're stationed, like you said, they're targets. Everybody looks. That's the first spot you want to focus on when you approach a zone, because if somebody is there, they're going to take you out. So the key thing to do is just blow that up, and then you don't have to worry about it. And nobody ever thinks, oh, you can repair it if you have the proper equipment. But the new Battlefield's really going to put that into effect by giving you the ability to build those certain fortifications.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a really interesting concept, and whether or not it really changes the game around, I guess, is yet to be seen because we've never seen it before. But I feel like sometimes when it comes to like the meta game of any particular online multiplayer game, it's usually the things that seem like they're the small things that are insignificant. They're usually the things that have a big impact. And so, yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if this is actually something that changes the game around or not. I'm thinking it probably will, but it's hard to say at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Battlefield's definitely had their stamp in the industry. They always competing with COD, and Battlefield's definitely, I think, far superior in the aspect of combat. I mean, COD is more of a arcadey type of war game, whereas Battlefield tries to make it real and make you experience it. And I think they're going to hit it right on the head with this new one. I mean, I was skeptical at first. You know, I was kind of hoping for a Vietnam-based war game. I don't think we've really seen a good Vietnam War game. I know there was, you know, some DLCs in the past, but that's what I was assuming it was going to be. And then when they came out with the reveal and you saw it was World War II, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, because then I was looking at how COD did it, and you know, I didn't want to follow in that footsteps. But the way everything else is unfolding, it's turning into being, it could potentially be better than any of the other games they have ever done.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the main thing is too is that, I mean, the one thing that I've got from everything that I've heard from the devs is that they're really trying to make this one of the more skill-based battlefields in recent years. Because, I mean, that's the criticism we've all had. Well, I guess not we've all had. I have heard people talk about how they did like BF1 because it was easy to jump into. But I think, you know, guys like you guys and me, we kind of have that impression that Battlefield is becoming more of a casual shooter, and that's right, not necessarily a good thing. And I think the devs are really, with this one, trying to go the opposite direction. You know, things like, for example, more controllable recoil, you know, like I said, more longer animations to slow players down and make you actually think about what you're doing before you do it. You know, that'll be really interesting. And if they can manage to make, you know, Battlefield more skill-based, I think really it stands a chance of being one of the best Battlefields ever made. So,
yeah, I mean, they got rid of the whole elite class and the behemoths, which was definitely like them trying to even out the, you know, the skill level a little bit. So that's a good step in the right direction. And you know, I know a lot of people complain that BF1 is, you know, just not skill-based enough. It was a little too casual for some people.
It's definitely a run and gun game compared to the past ones.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, it kind of even reminds me of Battlefront in a sense. Like Battlefront is like super arcadey, and BF1 just felt like an extension of Battlefront. You know,
yeah.
And especially, you know, you don't even have to tap fire in Battlefield 1. Basically, it's, you know, it's the gunplay is entirely different, and that's I think why I didn't play anywhere near as much of that game as I did BF4. You know, I still will come back to BF4 from time to time, but I think once BF5 comes out, I'm probably never going to fire up BF1 ever again.
Right. Your mic's cutting out.
Oh, sorry. It's all good.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, we did on my end, so.
Cool.
We did briefly touch on a little what we saw in the trailer, but you know, let's dig in a little deeper. We've had a week now to digest what we saw. You know, they've been getting a lot of flack. I mean, I think the trailer has more dislikes than likes on YouTube, and you know, people are saying it's a little cartoony. They had the girl with the robot arm, you know, it's prosthetic.
Yeah, but that's real portrayals of, you know, things that really occurred in World War II. Like, I don't think people are really taking into the full effect the fact that they're trying, you know, they tried to do it with Battlefield 1 and keep, you know, all the stories true to its roots. But World War II steps into that dynamic of, all right, now they're really starting to learn about things. You know, the variety becomes much more expanded. They have much more to choose from. They have many more things that they can follow that are true and have factual basis to it that in Battlefield 1 they had to kind of piece together and make it feel like it was real, even though it wasn't all true. So, you know, on that sense, I think that they're really going to focus on, you know, on the facts.
Yeah,
I think it was just a little too colorful, perhaps. You know, you think of, you know, World War II, you want, you know, in the mud, you know, lots of grays, but they went with a little more of a colorful palette in the trailer, at least. I think the game's going to be amazing, but I don't think that trailer necessarily, you know, delivered and portrayed like what the game's going to actually be like. At least I'm waiting to see the multiplayer reveal.
Yep.
You know, gameplay.
Oh, well, in a nutshell, what that trailer was is, firstly, what I got from it was that it was trying to showcase the new features. And when I say it's trying to showcase the new features, it's showcasing all of the new features all at once, right? So I feel like people are worried because they're worried that squads are going to be running around with blue face paint and prosthetics and stuff. But what I got from the devs was that the prosthetic was actually a very late game unlock. So, I mean, I guess the equivalent of like a legendary unlock in BF1, something that you're not going to get straight away. You're going to have to earn through playing the game for a long period of time, because it's meant to mirror the progress of a real soldier. So, like, I mean, the way they're structuring the company in Battlefield 5, it's meant to be your company that you stick with throughout the progress of the war, right? And so as you level up these characters, they're going to gain access to, late war things that you don't necessarily have when you first create that particular person in your company. So that prosthetic is not going to be something that everybody has, so we're not going to have to worry about, whole teams running around with robot arms. It's not going to be like that. And the other thing is too, is in that trailer, you had things like, tiger tanks that are painted up in African color schemes in the middle of like what was clearly the French countryside and stuff. And there's a lot of unrealistic things about that trailer, but it was designed to be over the top. It was designed to show everything all at once. And things like, for example, when he throws back the grenade and then the guy shoots the grenade and knocks out the plane, that's going to happen like once in a million games. It's not something that's going to happen all the time. So I think people are, looking at the trailer and thinking, wow, this is super unrealistic, but it's not super unrealistic because that's not how the game is going to actually play out all the time. And if I can just make
it shows you.
Yep.
Go on.
I was just going to say, if I can make one more point as well. I think people are worried about, historical realism. And I can tell you from what I've heard from the devs, unlike what we heard in BF1, that they know that BF1 didn't feel historically accurate. Believe me, they know it. So what they're trying to do with the Tides of War live service is the Tides of War live service is meant to mirror the progress of the war. So we're going to start out with, the initial stages of World War II. I think it's meant to be, basically with the part of the war where Germany invaded France and places like Norway and North Africa. And then later on in the live service, we're going to get some, other expansions, other maps, other theaters of war. And then historically accurate gear will come in, as the time goes forth. And also they're going to have daily assignments and stuff to go along with that live service. So the actual assignments will also mirror historical events. Things like grand operations are actually going to mirror proper historical battles. So believe me, anyone that's worried about realism, you don't have to worry because they're far more than I think than any other game. Before they've even released the game, they're really thinking about how they're going to make it historically accurate. So I don't think that's something we need to worry about.
Yeah, plus, in the trailer, they, like you said, they wanted to portray everything that could possibly happen in the game in one short trailer. Like you said, it could be 1 in a million chance that could occur, shooting the grenade out of the air and catching the plane. But freaky things like that happen in Battlefield all the time, all over the world. So what they want to do is show you that, all right, these things are new things that we could add in here that could happen, boom, what do you think about that? Like, it was in your face. It just wanted to show you everything about the game that they could get in that short period of time.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, just as long as people understand that that's not going to be what the real game feels like, it's not going to be like the trailer. And the trailer is just meant to show you all the new cool things that you can do. And also the other thing that I've been telling people for the last week or so is just hang out for another week. EA Play is only a week away, and they're going to show us heaps more then, and you'll probably change your mind. If you've got a bad taste in your mouth now, that could change in a week and a half. So don't worry too much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
definitely
agree.
looking forward to that. You've got a little bit of inside info, more than maybe the average person has, and I'm sure, the most of it you cannot speak on at this point. But, we're going to ask you a few questions anyway, and obviously, if you can't speak, then absolutely, that's fine. We totally understand.
Yep, no worries.
One of the things I was wondering is that they show. There's going to be a high level of customization for your character. Now, is it going to be where you can almost like create a character, like maybe like an NBA 2K, where you're changing the facial features of a character?
Yeah, so basically, one thing I really got from the pre-reveal stream is that visual customization, and you can see this in the trailer too. Visual customization is going to be way more to the extent. Way more complicated, I should say, than anything we've ever seen before. So you're actually going to be able to change individual segments of your character. So, for example, if we have a look at the girl in the trailer with the robot arm, so you'll be able to actually change what her arm looks like, or what sort of jacket she's wearing, or what sort of face paint she's got, or what her face looks like, or whatever. And that's all going to be sort of things that you're going to be able to do. Visual customization is through the roof apparently in this game. And the other thing you're going to be able to do as well is what they were saying is there's these new things called soldier archetypes. So in the past, you just picked a character. You might have picked Scout or whatever. And then you might have chosen to change your loadout to suit, say, for example, a more like aggressive recon. You might have, whacked a suppressor on your gun and, used something like a PDW to flank around and get the enemy, right? Rather than just being a sniper. Well, they've actually now put that into the game as a feature. So when you select your class, you also have the option to select that archetype as well, and that'll change the statistics of your player around and give you some buffs and some nerfs to help you play that particular play style. So it's kind of like them giving a nod to all the things we've already done in Battlefield in the past, but they're actually just now making it set in stone as a game feature. And within those archetypes and within the actual classes as well, there's a new skill tree. So in the past, we've had, a couple of specializations that you can equip. Well, this time you'll actually have to go through a skill tree. You'll have to level up your character like you would in an RPG game. And, either select one or the other. You won't just be able to select the, objectively best specializations, I should say. You'll actually have to go down the tree and select what you'd prefer. And, that could be things like extra magazines or faster ADS speed or stuff like that. And I'm just kind of like, don't quote me on any of these particular things. But,
right.
Because they could all also change as well. One thing they did point out that everything in the pre-reveal stream was a work in progress. So anything that we learnt just before the reveal could change by the time the game comes out. But yeah, generally speaking, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be able to customize your character as if it was like an RPG game and pick different perks and different nerfs and whatever. And then you'll also be able to customize your weapons as well on top of that as well. So basically, in terms of customization, there's going to be way more than BF1 and probably as much as BF4, but not so much geared towards weapon attachments, more geared towards, all round different things that you can pick for your player. Kind of more like how it was set out in Bad Company 2.
Okay. Nice.
Well, that's great to hear because I loved Bad Company 2. That's still my favorite Battlefield to this day.
Yeah, for sure. And what
did we get any?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say what I mean by that when I say like linking it back to Bad Company 2. If you remember in Bad Company 2, you had like specializations and your weapon attachments were part of the specializations. So like you could either select a flak jacket, for example, or you could select magnum ammo, or you could select a scope. Like it wasn't like you had separate attachments and separate specializations. So, they're going to link a lot of the things we kind of like the benefits we would know as weapon attachments. They're going to be, more like player customization specializations instead. So like it worked in Bad Company 2.
Yeah, I like the sound of that because you could really match it to your play style and, take it to the next level. That definitely sounds cool to me. Do we have at this point, any information at all, like what they're doing with the platoon systems?
Okay, so I actually don't really know too much about the platoons yet. They didn't really say too much about that. Obviously, the company
I hope they bring it back.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah, it was definitely really cool. But the company is something completely different. I think a lot of people, like, they hear the company and they think, oh, that's just the new platoon system. So the company is something that's like local to you, like as a solo player. Right. So it's like your list of like, tanks and planes and it's your customization for everything that you play in game. And we've always had that in Battlefield, but what they're trying to do with the company, in quotes, I should say, the company, is they're trying to, put it all together in the one place so you can see, like, as if you've got like this force that you've customized, and you can lay them all out in the same way or use the same emblem on everything. It's everything we've already been able to do in a more like visual and fun, appealing way, so that that's part of the game now. It's not just kind of something you do as like a bit of a side thing. It's actually, they want you to enjoy that part of the game just as much as actually getting in and shooting people.
Right. That makes sense.
So is it almost like replacing your squad that you're with?
The way the company is. For your solo game, it's just for your console at home, and then you develop it and you build your thing, but you build your company for yourself. You can change for each class. Say you have one support, one assault, one medic, one scout, and you want to have an emblem, a specific emblem for each one of those classes. Like, you can customize each one of those characters. That's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah.
You can customize them so that when you pick that character, it's already set. You don't have to go through the settings and change them, and then you have the other setting where you have the sublets where you can change each customization and then save it and go back to those settings if those are what you want.
Yeah.
They're working on trying to make it a more visual for you so that you don't have to go and do it individually.
Yeah, I mean, and you've always been able to do that. Like, you've always been able to go in and customize what your scout's using and what they look like, and et cetera, and what skins on their gun. But what they're trying to do is, the company is meant to be like this like user interface that everything's laid out in front of you. So when you go in, you can see all your soldiers there, and you can see all your tanks and see what they look like and stuff. So it's basically an easier way to get customization happening, because I know, like, for me, I don't tend to use customization in BF1 that much because it tends to be pretty clunky. I sort of get into a game and then I set it up during the game. I don't actually do it beforehand. So yeah, the company's like the whole method of being able to do it, and also you're going to be able to rank up the things in your company, not just like your actual soldiers, but also tanks and planes and stuff as well. You'll actually be able to like level them up as if it was an RPG game, and you'll be able to sort of, I guess, see the progress of. And I'm just sort of extrapolating here. I don't actually know this for a fact, but I'm guessing within the company you'll be able to see the progress of for example, your scout player to the next rank, or your tiger tank to the next rank, or whatever. And it's faction based as well from memory. I think from memory you're going to be able to go in and have a look at your German like faction and look at what your German scout looks like, and what your German tiger looks like, and your German Panzer IV looks like, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah, that sounds definitely cool. Let me ask you this: have you played the game?
No, I haven't played the game.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Have you seen multiplayer gameplay?
No, I haven't seen that either.
He's not going to be able to answer that question even if he did. So let's move past that.
You know what? I have to ask it. Our viewers would want me to ask it.
Yeah. All right. So what else do you want to talk about?
One of the things I think it got pushed to the side, but I think it's kind of cool, is the co-op mode they're bringing back. Co-op mode is kind of just something, maybe on a day when I don't want to sit here and go into multiplayer and try hard and do all that stuff. Co-op is kind of a little more relaxing, and I can still play with my friends, but it's I'm playing against AI. It's a little more relaxing and more of a laid back type of thing, and I think that's definitely a cool feature that they're bringing that back.
Yeah, for sure, and also considering it's like a dynamic mission generator as well. Like it's sort of something that it's never going to be the same each time you do it. So I think one of the problems with co-op back in like Battlefield 3, I think it was that like you played it once and then you never wanted to play it again because it was just the same mission. So like why bother going back and replaying the same single player mission? So with this one, it's a bit different. They're going to actually and they didn't really go into too much detail about how it was going to work, but essentially you've got AI that you face off against, and I'd imagine there'd be different difficulties that you can do, and that would be pretty interesting too, because I remember when, for example, Rainbow Six Siege first came out and it was in beta or something. I remember like playing with a group of friends for like 4 or 5 hours or something, just trying to do the AI co-op, on the hardest difficulty, and because it was a different experience every time, we just kept going back and trying to complete it, and it was really, really a cool experience, and I feel like this co-op that they're suggesting in the new Battlefield game has got a lot of potential, even more so than the co-op in Rainbow Six Siege, which people don't tend to play anymore. So, hopefully it's something that kicks off.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's the game as a whole, I think, is going to have a great dynamic, great feel to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm really keen.
And, we run, the Winner Die Tournament League. And, I wanted to ask you, do you play competitively at all? Or
I don't actually. And you know what? That's actually one of the things that I've been saying to lots and lots of people over the last couple of weeks is that if Battlefield 5 can make me get into competitive gaming, like for this game, it's definitely kicked a goal for me because it's never something I've been interested in when it comes to Battlefield. And I just think that's because the actual devs haven't really done that much work in trying to support it and making it, easy. Like, for example, I just wish they had like a better toolbox for, guys like you guys who have to stream tournaments and stuff, if they could, from the ground up, build the game with competitive players in mind, it'd be so much more to getting people like me who don't necessarily like it. Well, it's not that I don't like it. It's just I just don't have a big interest in
access. Right.
So you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't tend to watch streams of Battlefield tournaments and that sort of thing. But if they could get me interested in it, then they've definitely done a good thing in my book.
Yeah, I think they also suffered with incursions because they really were pushing for incursions coming out, and they amped it up as this is going to be the competitive mode for Battlefield. And truthfully, I think they really botched it. Like, there were so many mistakes that were made. It didn't have that feel. It was just kind of thrown out there and, all right, here, this is what you get. And I don't think that they polished it off and did it properly, especially with the amount of time they had to develop it and work on it. I think it was poorly done. So I'm hoping that they can implement that into the new Battlefield in some aspect.
Yeah, and the other thing with incursions too, I think it just came way too late in the life cycle of BF1. I mean, players were already starting to kind of drift back to BF4 and other games. And obviously with all the PUBG games, PUBG and Fortnite style games becoming really popular, it was already like Battlefield 1 was already starting to leak players. And so I feel like if incursions had been a feature from day one, then maybe people would have got on board and maybe an esports scene would have sprung up around the game more than it did, So, but, if they have something like incursions and something better than incursions in BF5 from day one, then, maybe we might have like a vibrant, thriving esports community for the new game, which will be really interesting.
Yeah, and there's a lot of potential out there. There's a lot of great teams that play, a lot of great players who play, especially on console. It's incredible to see some of the skills that some of these players and teams have, especially with teamwork.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy actually that you mentioned that. It's funny to think of how many competitive players are actually on console. It's really interesting, hey? Because I always seem to hear about some PS4, competitive team, but I very rarely hear about competitive players on PC, which is maybe because they're off playing things like CS:GO. I don't know, but
most likely. We don't have much to choose from on PS4.
Exactly.
But it's definitely a lot of fun, and there's a lot of people that are involved, and a lot of people that maybe want to be involved but don't necessarily have the access points to do it. I created my own league, because there's a bunch of leagues out there, but there's not that many, and it just for the random player, they have to be invited to one of these leagues. So
that's right.
Yeah. Hopefully,
Given the open the door to everybody, we're here as, obviously as a community, and we have a great community so far, and we're ever expanding every single day. We have new members who are joining. But, with any game comes trolling. Obviously, you have people who are going to troll, people who are going to shit talk, people who are going to bash other people. But the way I take it is, listen, if you want to talk your smack, then prove it. You better be able to back it up. That's all I'm going to say on that point. But, some people aren't comfortable with it. Some people, may get offended. So we're trying to dim down on the trolling, really get the community out there, outreach to everybody, and try and get everybody involved. Just like you said, that you may be interested in the future in getting involved in that community, and this could, you never know. And I'm really excited to see everything that's going to unfold in the future, especially with what we have in store.
Yeah, and I mean, one feature as well that just made me just remember that. One feature that the devs did talk about was that they're really trying to push squads again in Battlefield 5. So, for example,
Nice.
now I think one of the producers, Ryan MacArthur, was talking about this. I think he was saying that when you leave a round, if you're in a squad, you'll actually stay in that squad over to the next round, even if the squad is made up of people you don't know. So what that means is you'll be able, like if you get, say, for example, VoIPing with a couple of players that you don't necessarily know, you'll be able to stick with them from round to round and maybe actually build up some sort of friendship and some sort of, like if you play together with a particular group of people, maybe you'll add them as a friend later on and play with them again. And not just that, things like the reinforcements mechanic, being that it's based off squad points, if you want to get in and you want to unlock the Churchill Crocodile tank, or you want to unlock the Sturm Tiger or the V1 rocket, you're going to actually have to work as a team, and you're going to actually have to follow your squad leader's orders, because you can't unlock those things unless you actually work together as a squad and do squad-based things. So it's just interesting that they're really pushing squads again. And if that kicks off, it'll build up that sense of teamwork in Battlefield 5, and that's essentially what leads to competitive gameplay. If you come across a good squad of people, you might think, shit, we're always at the top of the scoreboard in these public matches, then let's try out competitive and see if we're any good at that as well.
Yep. And that's exactly how it starts, and next thing you know, you're playing, and you can't help yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Well, I know I'm definitely very excited for Battlefield 5, even more so, after discussing it with you and hearing a few features that, we weren't aware of. So, I think we're gonna cut it off here. I want to thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
and,
no worries.
Hanging out with us and talking some Battlefield with us. It's definitely been fun.
Yeah.
Real quick, Mike, just give the YouTube so that people know where to find you, and then we'll do all of our, give all of our information out just so that everybody can be able to follow everything. Mike, start with the Win or Die stuff.
Okay, the YouTube channel is Win or Die Gaming. You can check us out there. We do a podcast every Wednesday night, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Check us out. We're around. And we're always discussing Battlefield. We have a passion for it. And, come join us. And we always love to read the comments, and we, like to go, talk to the viewers and just have a nice roundtable discussion of all things Battlefield. We'll definitely be doing one once the multiplayer trailer is revealed to us. And like I said, come join us.
And then as for myself, I do most of the league match streams, so you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/rideforlife3. Same goes with YouTube, which is where all the matches are streamed, so youtube.com/rideforlife3, as well as Twitch and the other accounts that are created all under the same URL. So yeah, if you want to check out some of the league matches or even just some of the daytime streams, be sure to hit that like and sub and follow all the league information at Win or Die. And then obviously we want to thank Billy for everything he did and all the information you gave us. And Billy, I'm sure you have all of your stuff.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great. Good to talk Battlefield. I'm always happy to talk Battlefield with anybody, especially now.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
You could catch Billy at BILLYEATWORLD on YouTube. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And thank you. See you next time.
Have a great night, everybody.